I'll be the first to admit when I say that the animated DC shows have a really good place in my heart. I absolutely loved the animated shows, and I think genuinely that they are probably the best DC things that we have gotten, like, ever. Yes, there's a lot of good DC stuff. We got CW had some pretty decent DC things, excuse me. But the shows, the animated shows, were amazing. And one that I genuinely didn't think I would enjoy as much as I did back in the day was Young Justice. Young Justice was absolutely amazing. Was it a little bit iffy as we progressed through, the second, third, and fourth seasons? Of course. But when I look back at season 1, it was legitimately one of the best shows that I've ever watched. Now, that's not exactly what I'm here to talk about. I am here to talk about Young Justice, but I want to talk about why all of us truly miss, or why we all miss Young Justices, something like that. Young Justice, Wally West. Because Wally West in this show, or Kid Flash in this show, was really awesome. I absolutely loved him because he wasn't just a comic relief. He was the team's heart and soul. This version of Wally West was amazing. Was it your traditional Wally West? No, right? It wasn't. But from season 1, Wally West, the Kid Flash, he wasn't just a speedster. He was the team's heart and soul, the heartbeat of what the team really was. We had Robin, who was the strategist, Aqualad, who was like that mainstay leader, Superboy, who was your powerhouse and stuff like that, even though Superboy was an interesting thing, which obviously I'm definitely going to eventually talk about Superboy in his own video. But yeah, we had all these things, and Wally West, I always saw him as the soul of the team. Yes, he was the comic relief, his constant jokes, endless appetite, his casual confidence, all of these things, yes, were amazing to watch. And sometimes it was almost like, maybe it's a little too much, maybe he's making too much laughter. But you kind of need this lightness, definitely, to balance things out when you're dealing with a darker storyline, or a storyline that definitely leans in the darker kind of origin of it. And you see him really diffuse tension within the team a lot of the times throughout the story and throughout the seasons, even in the middle of a mission, right? With a quick one-liner, maybe just a quick little tidbit from Wally West during a kind of a high stakes kind of undercut scenario. And without Wally West, I feel like the later seasons would have felt even heavier, because there's some heavy stuff in those seasons, some heavy scenarios, and that make you question how this even is a kids television show. But at the same time, Wally West just made things so amazing, because yes, he was like the clown of the group, right? He was like your class clown, your comic relief, type of character. But he had a lot of growth from that clown comic relief character to a full-on capable hero. Because at first you really just saw Wally as this like super immature type of overeager member of the team. But the missions got tougher and the growth was needed, and he grew with it all. He really did. He grew with everything. He learned to think beyond himself, act as like this true team player. He wasn't like this solo act anymore, or this guy that just felt like, oh yeah, he's just going to go do his own thing. His confidence really turned into this genuine competence, and he was still that funny, careless guy, or like the kind of guy that would have a bunch of laughter and stuff like that. But he wasn't fully careless. He wasn't fully like, oh yeah, I don't really care what's going on, blah, blah, blah. But genuinely, Wally learned from his mistakes. He learned from his issues, and he learned from quite a bit throughout his time, especially early on, being a hero. I mean, it wasn't always about flashy victories, and that's something that Wally had to learn. And sometimes it was about this small, quiet acts that would allow them to save lives. And by the time season 2 really rolled around, Wally wasn't just this rookie hero anymore. He was a lot more matured. Yes, he still had that goofy attitude from time to time, but he was a lot more matured. Someone the team could actually trust. And loyalty is something that was absolute with Wally West, this version of Wally West specifically, and especially because it was one of his defining traits, right? You've seen every single person having their own defining traits. But Wally West, I mean, it had to have been loyalty. I mean, we've seen it day in and day out, and we saw it throughout the entirety of the show. But the one thing that I absolutely fell in love with, and that was that slowed down progressive romance with Artemis. Because Wally West was a flirt. Like, he was this overwhelming flirt. And frankly, I feel like a lot of us were kind of like, bro, like, this guy need to calm it down, right? Take a step back. And you would feel like, oh, this guy, like, all he does is flirt with other people. Do this, do that. But I felt like Artemis was kind of this perfect relationship for that version of Wally West. I mean, they started off by constantly bickering, but it was clear that there was chemistry there. There was chemistry. And Artemis, I mean, she was hard-headed. She was, you know, a strong woman and a strong kind of protagonist. And she was proof of, like, I can do it on my own. I can take care of myself, which was awesome in itself. But that was going to clash with Wally West. Wally West was very comedic. He loved to joke. He loved to flirt. He loved to do this. He loved to do that. And Artemis, well, she wasn't really that type of character. She wasn't that type of woman. But at the same time, it worked out so beautifully, right? The relationship, it grew naturally. It wasn't forced. It was no forced love at first sight or anything like that. Yes, Wally, you never really knew where Wally's head was out half the time, or where his head was at half the time. But you just watched it, and it was so progressive and so beautiful, and the trust that was built and the experiences that were building was truly something that was real. And they were eventually happily living together, a rare example of kind of like this healthy, functional superhero couple. And yeah, it all had to come collapsing in. And I'm sure some of you are probably like, well, why do we all miss Justice or Young Justice's Wally West? And obviously that means that he does pass on. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen that show, but it's been it's been a pretty long time, let's just say that. But honestly, Wally West's death hits even harder when you realize that he went through all of this, right? He went through step after step after step to not only being a better person, being a better hero, being a part of the team, a better teammate, and a better partner himself. And that death hits even harder because it wasn't just a teammate that was lost. It was the end of a love story that a lot of fans, including me, were rooting for. I mean, we loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I loved Artemis and Wally. I loved Artemis and Kid Flash. And watching them together, it was like, oh, this is great. I want to watch them to the very end. So when you saw it, the season 2 finale, Endgame, and it gave the most absolute heartbreaking exit imaginable, where Wally West, without even thinking, without even a second thought, ran right into danger. That's what he does, and that's what he was doing. This energy-like weapon needed to be stopped, and Flash and Impulse were on it. They were trying to dissipate the energy from the weapon, but they needed more. They needed more kinetic energy because what they were doing was stalling. What they needed was to put it on the back burner, get rid of it, destroy it, get rid of it entirely, get rid of all the energy, dissipate all the energy. So they needed something else. And when Wally heard that, there was no hesitation. Wally jumped straight into action, and that right there is Wally West to his core. Wally West was not afraid of the truth, right? Of the true moment. He was not afraid of throwing himself out there, even when he literally knew he was less likely to keep up. He knew that he wasn't up to par with some of these other heroes, because guess what? We saw a ton of it throughout those episodes where it was like conversations were happening about how Wally West was not as fast as the Flash and not as fast as Impulse, and there were conversations about that the entire time. And I'm telling you, that is something that was definitely going through his head when he decided to jump into action, because yes, his top speed was slower than theirs, and the excess energy would tear him to shreds, and maybe he didn't know that at the time and it was going to happen. But does it matter that he didn't know that? Because the Wally West that we knew, the one we grew up with, we knew that he wasn't going to panic. He wasn't going to complain. He wasn't going to run away from it. He was going to run to it. And he was going to keep running until the earth was safe. And yes, he faded away in Artemis's arms. And there's probably a lot of moments there where she wishes he didn't do what he did. He didn't jump in like the hero he was. But at the same time, he absolutely knew that this right here was his destiny. He knew that a sacrifice was going to be made, and he knew that he may not have been as fast. He might not have been even close to the speed of the Flash and Impulse, but he knew that he could use his speed for the greater good and could use his speed to help every single person around. And yeah, as we left that season and went on to the rest, the void really was left behind. I mean, we saw Artemis take it extremely hard, right? It was very difficult for Artemis, even considering retirement and then obviously becoming Tigress. But all of these things are difficult. We saw Bart Allen inherit the mantle of Kid Flash and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a reason why we all missed him or miss him so much, because he was relatable. He was shown to not be the strongest. He was shown to not be the smartest. He was the weaker version of a Flash, and he had to make up for everything he did with heart, with determination, but at the same time, he was fun. In a show that was full of betrayal, espionage, galactic warfare, whatever you want to say, Wally was the bright spot. He was proof that you didn't need to be perfect to be a great hero, but you needed to understand your imperfections to truly become the great hero you were destined to be. And Young Justice, full of powerhouses, skilled tacticians, everything you can think of, nobody else could replace Wally West with the humor, the warmth, the courage, and the unwavering want to be the greatest hero he can be. Wally West will always be missed involving Young Justice, and honestly, it was a great watch no matter what. When you watch it, where you watch it, if you were younger, if you're older now, if anything, Young Justice, it was amazing. It was amazing, obviously, just out of enjoyment. Yes, if you want to be critical, there's moments where it's not the best, but at the same time, if you just look at it through the lens of enjoyment, I truly believe Young Justice was up there with some of the best. And Wally West, well, he was undoubtedly at the top of my list in terms of favorite characters in these animated TV shows. And that's exactly why I miss Young Justice's Wally West. But I'm sure a lot of you, which I'm going to say all because, YouTube title, but this is why we all miss Young Justice, Wally West as well. But with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about the video. What is your opinion on Young Justice and this version of Wally West? Not 100% sure on the title just yet, but, we're going to get there. Now, with all that said, if you enjoyed this video, YouTube believes you'll enjoy this one, so might as well.